Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO dinner moderator, Asad Al-Asad.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the CEO Dinner 2024 at Al-Yamamah University. We're so delighted to have you here with us at the CEO Dinner, which has become a feature event organized by Al-Yamamah University for the postgraduate students, the leaders of the business sector today and tomorrow, inshallah. Al-Yamamah University, as we all know, is all about making and creating a new generation of leaders. We are so proud at Al-Yamamah University that our alumni are taking leading positions in all the sectors that they are finding themselves in the banking sector, in the construction sector, in the insurance, in all the effective sectors that are helping build the future of Saudi Arabia and fulfill the objectives of Vision 2030. And probably, as some of you know or probably don't know, we are so proud that 4 of our alumni have been deputy ministers. And just recently, I found that one of our alumni, his name is Omar Al-Ammari, he is a chief leader in the field of HR, has recently been honored at the House of Lords in London, and he has received he was named number 1 or one of the top global powerful leaders at the Global Conclave and Awards. He received his certificates in the House of Lords. We are so proud of him. We are so proud of our alumni. And we are so proud of you, dear students at the Al-Yamamah University postgraduate programs. And actually, this is the reason. And this is why we meet here every year with a CEO, with a leader who has immense experience and reputation in order to listen to their story and learn from their experience, all to provide inspiration for you so that very shortly, inshallah, you are going to send us the news about your successes, and we will be very proud to celebrate your success. Now, the theme of this event that we are organizing this evening, we thought about a special theme, and we called it Leaders Undaunted. There cannot be a leader who is not strong and courageous enough, because leadership is a huge responsibility, and it requires a leader to be on top, and that requires also the leader to be prepared with the skills and also with the vision, and to have the courage to take daunting tasks. Now, our special guest this year, 2024, has immense record in leading mega projects in key cities in the world, in London, in Los Angeles, in Las Vegas, and in many places that have witnessed extraordinary projects. And let me make a long story short and welcome our CEO with a short video that is going to introduce her, the CEO of the Sports Boulevard, Miss Jane McGivern.
With over 35 years of experience in the development of infrastructure mega projects, Jane McGivern has faced challenges head on, leading with unwavering courage and determination. McGivern's leadership extends beyond borders and boundaries. From her role as CEO of the European Division of London-Base, where she orchestrated the construction of iconic landmarks like Wembley Stadium and the O2, to her tenure as President of Development and Construction at Madison Square Garden Company, where she oversaw groundbreaking projects like the Air District Sphere. McGivern has proven time and again that no challenge is too big to conquer. But perhaps her greatest challenge and triumph from her leadership of the Sports Boulevard mega project is beyond the cornerstone Vision 2030. Spanning over 135 kilometers with 3.9 million square meters of invested areas and 4.4 million
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our guest, Ms. Jane McGivern, CEO of the Sports Boulevard Foundation.
Thank you.
To the moment where we are now here gathered together. Thank you so much, Ms. McGivern.
Oh, well, thank you for the introduction. That was a bit overwhelming.
Thank you so much. And let me start where we left here at the Sports Boulevard. I mean, it's really an immense project. And I think, in all means, it is really a daunting project to take. I mean, 135 kilometers in length, 3.5 million square meters in investment areas. Could you just tell us a little bit about this project in terms of its mega scope, please?
Of course. First of all, thank you so much for asking me here. This is a complete honor, and I'm delighted to be able to come and talk to you. Sports Boulevard is one of the mega projects, which is part of Vision 2030. I tend to think of Riyadh as Project Riyadh, and all the mega projects are divisions of that one project. Sports Boulevard, in my opinion, is undoubtedly the most technically challenging. It's why I came here. I'd never seen anything like it. The vision to actually put what is, in effect, the world's largest piece of urban regeneration right through the middle of a city of 7 million people was incredible. And what we are doing is, for those of you who perhaps don't know much about Sports Boulevard, we've only recently started to talk about it publicly. We wanted to be on the ground and delivering before we talked about it in any great detail. So the first thing I'm going to do is to apologize to anybody who has a terrible journey to work because of the traffic diversions. I am so sorry, but what we are doing is for 35 kilometers from Wadi Hanifa through Diriyah Gate, right up Prince bin Salman Road to the airport, diverting the old utility corridor, removing all of the pylons, diverting all of the utilities so that we can develop a park through the middle of Riyadh. And of course, we don't want to switch Riyadh off whilst we're doing that, so technically it's been very challenging, and that's why you see a lot of hoardings, big holes in the ground, and a few traffic jams whilst we're doing that. So thank you for your patience. I'm going to talk about that 35-kilometer stretch very briefly, because that is where most of the urban activity happens. It is, at its heart, a linear park. It is there for the people of Riyadh, for the visitors of Riyadh. It is open and accessible 24/7. It provides grassroots sports for everybody, a place to walk, a place to exercise. We have 3 metro stations on the realm. We are set out as a sustainable project, both financially, environmentally, and in terms of ESG. So I think we're the first Riyadh mega project to state that. We hope to be carbon neutral by about 2040 across the boulevard. So in order to do that and be financially sustainable, we also have to deliver some real estate so we can have an annual income that pays for the operation of the park and the community facilities for the people of Riyadh. So we are building just under 4 million square meters. I think it's 3.56 million square meters of real estate. There's new communities, residential, offices, clearly food and beverage, schools, nurseries, but mostly there's sports. We deliver 50 different sports across the realm of Sports Boulevard. The crown in the jewel, or the jewel in the crown, I should say, is a sports tower that has 35 different sports in it. It's 130 meters high. And we've cantilevered out from the roof a 300-meter running track, which is completely digitized, very technical. If you want to be very brave, the walls around it are glass. So you'll be running at 3. I think my microphone.
Are we losing the sound?
Maybe
Yes.
it was me. Have I?
Yes.
No? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay,
Yes.
good.
Yes.
So And inside there's a 125-meter high climbing wall, which is by far the biggest in the world. So we're very, very excited about what we're delivering. We have cultural assets across the boulevard as well. And then we join all of that together through what will become the first urban, I'm going to call it an urban national park. I'm not sure that that's the right description, but we have 25 square kilometers of land up by the airport, which we opened the first phase of that, we complete the first phase of that towards the end of the year. And we're reclaiming the desert that has been eroded and destroyed by traffic and people enjoying the outside. You'll have seen it. You go up there, a lot of people go camping, they take their vehicles, they have a great family time, they kind of get up and go. But over the years, all of the famous red sand dunes have been eroded from that part of Riyadh and moved further out of town. And we are undertaking a complete reinstatement of this 25 square kilometre area where no cars will be allowed. We've created over 80 kilometres of cycling tracks and walking trails in there, and we have seeded new dunes. We're very excited about it. So that's part of our project. We then go out by the airport along Wadi Saleh for about 53 kilometres. Then we go along Wadi Hanifa for 35 kilometres, and that's all cycling, walking, running trails, and some equestrian trails as well. So the bulk of our project is park, but the urban realm is very much an urban linear park, which has a lot of real estate on it. We are sustainable. We're delivering 30 kilometres of district cooling, which not only deals with the whole of our realm on Sports Boulevard, but through a design code area which we control in terms of architectural design, massing, landscaping, and renewable energies. That design code covers 16% of Riyadh. So anybody who wants to develop in that area will have to come to our design code studio and make sure that we're designing in accordance with a code that's been approved by our board of directors, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed, the Crown Prince, and that whole area is all about the beauty of Salmanic architecture and to give Riyadh back an identity of this beautiful desert city, this beautiful oasis.
I think here, if I may summarize
I could talk about it for a whole hour.
Yes, because you sound so very passionate. Absolutely, and it's very evident in the way that you're describing the project and the scope of it. But the name Riyadh in Arabic means like gardens.
Exactly.
So you're trying to retrieve or maybe return Riyadh back to its own nature as a garden with all these green areas and sports facilities. But when you're speaking about the project, it's massive. It's really massive. I mean, in a big city like Riyadh, in the heart of the desert, where you have big challenges such as sustainability, you have the humanization of the city, you have this huge urban development. These are really such very considerable challenges. And we go back again to our theme of being an undaunted leader. When you were first approached to come and be in charge of the leadership of this project, did you for 1 minute think about this huge challenge, or what was going on in your mind at the beginning, and what made you say, yes, I would like to take this challenge, despite its huge scope and...
Well, I'm going to be honest. When I was first approached, I was finishing the Madison Square Garden Sphere in Las Vegas, which was a very challenging project in its own right and was all-consuming. And at the same time, I was setting up the company that would take that concept and deliver it throughout the world. So I had a pretty big job at the time. And when I was first approached, and somebody said, "Yes, it's this boulevard, and it goes for 135 kilometers through an existing city, and you have to deliver it in 6 years," I just thought, this is insane. This is not going to happen. And so, but gradually, people were very persistent and they kept talking to me, and I basically got sucked into it. And I have to say, I didn't find it daunting. I thought it inspirational, exciting, challenging. And I think part of being a leader is always leaning in and not leaning back. You know, if you approach change, if you approach anything daunting, as you suggest,
Yes.
there are two ways of doing it. You go, I'm slightly cautious about that. I'm a little bit afraid of it. How am I going to deal with all of that? Oh, my goodness. Or there's, look at that. That's fantastic. How am I going to do it? You know, there are two ways of doing it. And, you know, I think a great skill I've come to learn, I'm very old, I'm much older than everybody here, but I've come to learn that actually you don't need to be afraid of anything, because anything is achievable. And if any country can prove that, it's Saudi Arabia. I mean, what is happening here is unbelievable. The energy of this country and the ambition, not only of talking about it, it's actually happening in real time. We in this room are living history. We're at the transformation of a nation and a repositioning of a nation as a powerhouse. You always knew it was, but now the whole world is looking at you and going, wow. And Sports Boulevard is part of that. So, you know, I didn't just come for the project or the foundation. I came to be part of history. And that's why I'm here.
So there's this personal engagement. You feel like there's some kind of ownership. You want to be part of that.
I want to be part of. I want to serve it. Actually, I want to be able to finish my career and think I did that. I did a little part of that, because it's always just a little part. You know, this is somebody else's vision, and what we're doing at our foundation is a part of it, but it's not the whole thing. I was lucky enough to be asked about 2 or 3 different mega projects, and was I interested in talking about the others. And I chose Sports Boulevard. I thought it was technically the most challenging. I thought it was absolutely ambitious in its scale. And interestingly enough, I thought it impacted on the city. This is just my opinion. I can't possibly say this is a fact. But in my opinion, I thought it impacted on Riyadh as a city, on a change in the quality of life of Riyadh, in the way that it could touch everybody in Riyadh. And we do indeed touch all of the other mega projects, I think, with the exception of Qiddiya and the new
Diriyah.
Projects, Maraba. But, you know, we go through Diriyah, we connect up with King Salman Park, we connect with CAFT, we connect with Roshan, we connect with the new airport. So I think we have a very interesting and challenging project, and that's why I'm doing it.
So in follow-up to this point again about when you took up the challenge of the Sports Boulevard, and this is like you've taken the forward attitude instead of leaning backward and saying this is going to be too difficult. As a leader, what do you think a leader needs also to have around with him, as tools or enablers in order to be able to succeed in this new challenge?
I think as a leader, you know, leader means many things. You can be leader of a family. You can be leader of a small company. You can be leader of Apple. You can be leader of a country. You can be leader of a foundation like Sports Boulevard. And they all need slightly different, depending on the vehicle, I think you need slightly different skills. But you all need one thing, in my opinion, which is the ability to listen and then make a decision. Stand by the decision and move forward. You know, the enemy of leadership is indecision and procrastination. That doesn't mean you do something stupid or rash or rush into something, but eventually the decision is yours and you have to live by the consequences of that decision, and don't be afraid of that, because there'll be 10 decisions you make and one of them will be an absolute disaster. That's just maths. It's just the laws of probability.
Wonderful.
But own it. I've made a mistake. Shouldn't have done that. Should have done that. That's okay. But actually doing it twice is stupid. You know. So,
Are you afraid of failure sometimes, as you're referring?
Don't be afraid of failure.
Yes.
Failure's a learning curve. You know, like made so many mistakes in my life on the way through. And I think that is, you can't be perfect. Change happens, and change can be for the better. But if you change if you're always changing and learning, then you become perfect. And you can never, every day I learn something every day.
Exactly.
We all learn something every day.
Let's take now one special challenge in the Sports Boulevard. This project is going to change the lifestyle of people in Riyadh. It's introducing this whole idea of being outdoor, being outside, exercising. For decades, people who live in Riyadh, either from the city or expatriates, it's a city in the desert, it's very hot, the weather, people have all these excuses. How do you think this project is going to change the lifestyle, and how do you believe, like you in the foundation, will be able to introduce this change to the people of Riyadh?
Well, firstly, I'm going to give you a little story here. I arrived in Riyadh and I was very lucky, and for the first month I was here, I was living in a suite at the Four Seasons. And I love sport. I play sport. It's always been part of my life from being a small child. And so day 3, I thought, okay, I pulled on my running stuff, I went outside, I thought, where do I go for a run? And there was absolutely nowhere. It was 4-lane highways, there was no footpaths, it was dangerous to go running. So I think Sports Boulevard gives everybody in Riyadh the opportunity to safely exercise, whether it's a stroll to work or a bike ride to work or a run. It doesn't exist at the moment, or in very small pockets of Riyadh, and we're doing this throughout the whole city. So I think the quality of life, part of our remit, one of our KPIs is to improve, to work with the quality of life program to improve the options for people to do that, should they so wish. At the moment, if you do so wish, it's quite hard to do it. So that's the first thing. I hear a lot about the climate and how can you, it's too hot. It's too hot for maybe 4 months a year. And I can tell you that in many parts of Europe, it's too cold for 4 months of the year. So I can't think of many countries where you can just every day is perfect. But for sure, I've lived here now for almost 3 years, and for 9 months of the year, I go for a run every morning outside before I go to work.
Right.
So
let's go back again to the point when you were talking about the enablers. And of course, a leader cannot function without a special team that can really put things into action and then take the project in the right direction. When you're assembling or when you're building your team, what qualities or skills do you really look for in the team that you would like to gather around you?
Well, CEOs are all different. I like to employ people who are way smarter than me, who are absolutely better qualified than I am in their field. When I arrived at Sports Boulevard, there were 29 employees there, and we now have just under 300, I think. I'm looking at my chief of marketing and communications, one of our C-suite, and he was one of the 29 employees. I found this young, I don't know how old you were, Ahmed, about 29 or something, but he was smart. And he took his opportunity, and we trained him, and we put him on courses, and here he is. And so what I did was I employed the smartest people I could possibly find. I empowered them to build their divisions. I empowered them to run the various sections of the company that we needed to set up. And I think that comes down from taking a little bit of a breath, getting a strategy in place. Why am I here? What do we have to deliver? And how are we going to do it? And then find the smartest people you could possibly get to do it for you. Listen to them, then make a decision. And I've done that my whole career. I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm bad at, and the things that I'm bad at, I get really, really smart people to do it for me.
That makes me move on to the next point, and
Yeah.
it's a very good segue. I wanted to ask you about your leadership philosophy. You know, like there are these different styles. Like there's
Yeah.
leading by serving people, leading by
Yeah.
negotiation. There are different types or styles. What is your philosophy or your style of leadership, if you wanted to reflect?
Yeah.
And probably some of your stories, like from the O2 or the Wembley, that we can draw from.
I'm fairly certain that everybody in this room is smarter than me. You're all here at MBAs. But my particularly, we've all read the leadership manuals and the books and the literature, and you know, there's the serving CEOs, there's the entrepreneurial one, there's the dynamic one. I think you've got to be a bit of all of that. I think I like to trust people until they prove to me I can't. I like to empower people. But there's always a little moment in a career where you realize you've kind of got it and you want to be,
Yes.
you want it, you want to lead.
Yes.
And, you know, for me personally, it was about 2001 in London, and there was a thing called the Millennium Dome had been built by the government. It's a tiny thing compared with the things we're doing here in Riyadh, but at the time it was a very big project. The government had built it. They had built it to encourage private sector to come in and make a huge development. They couldn't get anybody to make it successful. It kept failing. And in the end, I couldn't understand why it kept failing, because it was 22 acres next to a brand new metro station in London. Okay, it was under a tent. That was the thing.
Yes.
It was in a tent. We couldn't move the tent. So, long story short, I went and did a deal with the government on behalf of the company I was working for, and we bought it for £1 sterling.
Oh.
And we did a deal with the British government where we did, you know, if we make this much money, you can have the residual profit. And we did that deal. And everybody sort of laughed at that and said, you know, nobody will go south of the river, you know, how are you going to fund it? The whole institutional funding market in Europe wouldn't touch it. I was working for an American company at the time, AEG, Anschutz Entertainment. I was their managing director for Europe. And so I thought, well, everybody in the States knows AEG, so I launched a bond on the New York stock market. What we now call a high yield bond. At that time we called junk bonds. And we raised the money to complete what is now known as the O2. And in order to do that, I did the first big naming rights deal in the UK. Everybody does naming rights now, but 25 years ago nobody did. Certainly not in the UK. It was an American concept. And that secured the income stream that allowed the bond to launch, and we now have the world's most successful venue sitting in London. And it was incredibly profitable, paid the bond back in 3 years. Everybody sort of said, who came up with this? And that made my career. That one transaction made my career.
So you could talk about this, or
Yeah.
maybe you can refer to that as a turning point, probably in your...
It was a turning point for me, because at that stage I realized that actually you needed to have, if you know, anybody could put up that sounds very, let me take that back. There is a huge amount of skill in every real estate development, from concept through its design, through its construction, through its occupation, through its funding, through its investment strategy. All of those things you have to pull together and tie in a big bow if you are in that sector as a leader. But I, from that, got into very difficult infrastructure projects, and I found them very challenging. And in order to make sure that I was, you know, understanding it, I became very interested in engineering and construction. And that is, you know, the other side of the same coin, to make sure that I could manage, with a reasonable amount of knowledge, a huge infrastructure project. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to be invited onto the board of the Ministry of Defence in the United Kingdom as their non-exec chair of defence infrastructure, which were incredibly complex projects that I can't talk about for official secrets reasons. But that taught me how to deal with government stakeholders, the importance of collaboration, and how government and politics work. And that was hugely beneficial to the rest of my career. And I wouldn't have got that without the O2 and my engagement with the British government.
So this is
at
something,
that time.
exactly. So
Yeah.
this is something that you have learned
Yeah.
by doing your work, by being right there on top
Yeah.
of a project. Now, connecting theory and practice. We're talking about MBA programs, and
Yeah.
students do the case studies, they do have projects, and then they learn so much in the classroom.
Yeah.
But from your perspective in the labor market and in the business itself, do you believe these MBA programs still need something? They still need to add something, or maybe to change or modify so that they can adapt to the emerging landscape of business with AI, with all these fast-paced world that is going around? Do you think the programs at universities still miss something or need to add, to change, so that they can better bridge the gap between the classroom and the office?
I think an MBA is a fantastic, starting point on your route to being a CEO, being a leader, being an entrepreneur, being a minister. But the world is a rapidly changing place, and it's a starting point. Real life experience has to be layered on top of that. But looking at your traditional MBA curriculum, I think it's really important. If I were adding something personally, I would definitely add not only artificial intelligence sector, but also an emotional intelligence sector and a political engagement sector, particularly to look at the globe has shrunk. COVID has shown us, and how we all work now. We don't have to jump on planes, and that has basically made the globe a much smaller place. We're much more international. Artificial intelligence, for me, is a game changer. We are starting to look at it in huge... I'll give you a little example. You asked me to tell
Please.
some stories. So last year, if I wanted to, I've talked to you about our little thing, our Red Sands project. I wanted to have a look at a pavilion building there, which was all about cycling. And I went to our design team and I said, please, can you give me some images? I just want to, this is the sort of thing I have in mind. How would that fit in? Where do we fit it into the scheme? How can I show this to the board of directors? And 3 weeks later, they came back with some images, and they'd been, got an engineer to look at it, been to a firm of architects, and here you are. Great, okay. So this year, I wanted to do something similar, and I spent $1,000 on an AI program for architecture, and within probably 4 minutes, I had exactly the same result. Exactly the same result. Now, a year ago, I needed 5 people to do that for me for 2 weeks. And this year, okay, I didn't get the engineering part of it, but for concept and initial, do I want to do it or don't I want to do it, I did it in 4 minutes for $1,000. And that $1,000 will serve me for a year in software licensing. So in one tiny little thing, that AI has changed the way that we're doing business. And that is that is the biggest game changer we will see for the next 10 years. And so AI, and you then have to, for me, link that with emotional intelligence, EI, because the impact on human is going to be huge. And you as a leader need to understand that and manage that. So they're the two things that I would...
The very traditional question. Do you believe AI is a friend or a foe?
For me, I like it. But I can see how it could go wrong if it's not governed properly.
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
Now, speaking about the human capital, the Saudi human capital, you refer to your team and the people that are around you, that you would like to hire people who are smarter than you. You've talked greatly about that. What do you think, in your vision, sets apart the Saudi youth, the human capital in Saudi Arabia? What sets them apart from the youth or the working force in other countries around the world, globally speaking?
Okay, well, I have worked in many parts of the world. If you're delivering the sort of things that I deliver, you move around with where those projects are happening. So clearly I've done a lot of work in the United Kingdom, quite a bit in Europe. I sit on the global main board as a non-exec of Skanska, which is one of the largest civil engineering infrastructure construction companies in the world. So I see a lot of their projects. I've worked in the States for 5 years, I worked in Australia. And when I came to Saudi, I didn't really know, I'll be honest, what to expect at all. And I was firstly surprised and then actually blown away at the quality of education. The standard of education in this country is absolutely superb. I found the young labour force, most of the people we employ are young. I found them highly educated, hard-working, respectful, with a little layer of an absolute desire to serve their country that I've not seen anywhere else in the world. I'm further going to go on and say that if I'd have had that sort of labour force when I first became in, leading companies, I could have retired. I mean, my life would have been so easy. I applaud it. And on top of that, the Saudi ladies, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, if we're allowed to, but awesome. These girls, they have embraced the opportunity of joining the labour force. And, I'm really proud that at Sports Boulevard we have, I think our Saudiization rate, I hope I've got this right because it changes a bit every day, hovers around 89% of my workforce are Saudi. And of that, about 40% are female. And these are females in architects, engineers, lawyers. These are highly educated, brilliant women that I am so proud to work with. And the other thing that you may be slightly surprised about Saudi is I am a female CEO. I think I'm the first female CEO of a mega project, and not one person in Saudi thinks about it. They're just, are you good at your job? Yeah, get on with your job. And I can tell you that I have much more professional respect here and much more engagement here on a professional level than I ever had in the United States. And for that, I absolutely applaud this nation. It is incredible what has happened in the last 8 years here. And I love working here, and it's one of the best places I've ever worked, and I have one of the best professional experiences I've ever had.
That is so beautiful to hear. But now, in follow-up, of course, we always seek to be better and to improve, and we would like always to excel in what we are doing. Would you advise our students to do something or to focus on something, or what would you advise them to equip themselves furthermore to do in order to be also still excelling and serving their sectors and serving their country in the best possible ways?
It's a very broad question, if you don't mind me saying.
Yes.
Firstly, you've all got a great education. So, box ticked. Now you need to have great experiences. And you need to decide on where you want to be and how you're going to get there. There's nothing you can't do. You can do whatever you want. You just have to have the ability to identify the opportunity and go for it. And, it depends on where you want your career to go. A lawyer, if you want to be that, a lawyer has a very different approach to success than an entrepreneur. So you just have to decide what it is, map out your route, take your opportunity, don't be afraid to ask for it. One of the charming traits I found about my Saudi colleagues is that everybody is very respectful and very polite, and I love it. But sometimes a little bit too polite. I don't mean that you should be, rude or disrespectful, but don't be afraid to ask a question. Don't be afraid to say, I don't understand. Don't always say you're right if you believe somebody's wrong. You can be, and don't, be ambitious in what you want personally. And if you're ambitious in the organization that you're in at whatever level, I always start every day, or I try to start every day with, why am I here? I'm here to deliver this project for the benefit of Riyadh. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm keeping the seat warm for one of you guys. Because I think I don't really know why you have so many
Now,
expats.
I have one last...
But take it.
Yes.
If you see the opportunity, go for it.
Yes. One last question before we open up the floor for the guests for their Q&A. In maybe 1 minute, what is your guiding principle in life?
Be true to yourself. You have integrity. Stick to your integrity, and always be honest. That's it.
Thank you so much. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome all the questions and comments from our dear students. We have ushers with the microphones, but may I ask you kindly to keep your questions related to the theme of our CEO dinner talk. If we have any questions, please. Are the microphones ready? Yes, yes. Let's start with the lady right there, please. Could you just hand her the microphone, the lady? Could you please introduce yourself and your question?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to, first of all, welcome you. And I'm honored to actually have this opportunity to hear from your experience. And please excuse me by, I'm going to steal one of your quotes, which is always lean in, not lean out. I love this quote. It will be my quote for everything. You said that you learned something about that you trust people to realize that you can't. Can you demonstrate some the cases or from your experience when you stop trusting people?
I see. Yes, okay, I understand. So at what stage do you stop trusting people? I don't mind people making a mistake at all. Everybody makes mistakes. That's how you learn. We're all human. What I don't like is if people try to blame other people. They don't take responsibility or accountability for that mistake, because then they're not learning, right?
Okay.
That's telling me something about that person. And, I said the code I live by is integrity and honesty. And so, you can forgive mistakes, but what I can't forgive is dissimulation, if that's the correct word, or trying to blame your colleagues, or worse still, blame people below you. You have to be accountable for your position, and you have to be accountable for the work that you do. And so if people continue to do that, then I stop listening to them. And then that's time to perhaps find something else for them to do.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, some questions. The gentleman, please, at the second table, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you for joining us today. Speaking of the quotes, I love one of your...
Could you hold the microphone closer, please?
Sorry, speaking and mentioning the quotes, I love, and I'm quoting, leaders should be able to listen, then provide decision. I love this quote. My question is, being a leader before being a part of the vision, and after joining and being part of the vision, do you think that you as a leader have been positively evolved? If yes, can you elaborate?
I do actually think I've been positively evolved. I'm very lucky. In the chairman of our board is His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, Prince Mohammed. And I'm not, he is a brilliant boss, to be honest. We go to our board meetings. He's read the papers. He asked the question that you kind of hope that he might not have spotted, but he's definitely spotted. And he gives you a decision. He listens to everything you've got to say. He gives you a decision. He tells you what he wants you to do, but he'll also listen. If you have a view, he will listen, and sometimes he takes that on board. And that is what a leader is there to do. And so I am lucky that my boss listens to me when he thinks I've got a good idea or we need to make a change for whatever reason. And I think, that's why you employ good people. I certainly listen to not only my C-suite, but I'm very much a hands-on leader, by the way. I hate it, but some of my guys and ladies might call me a bit of an interferer and a bit of like to know everything that's happening. But that's just the way I am. I'm very hands-on. Everybody's slightly different. Some people are very distant in that. But in answer to your question, in a bit of a roundabout way, I feel that I have driven some changes to the project for the good of Riyadh. So I feel that I have made an influence. But the question really should be to my team, not to me, for that one, right? So.
Yes, some more questions, please. Yes, the gentleman right there in the center, please. Right? Okay, so we will take the gentleman and then you, sir. Yes.
السلام عليكم. عبد العزيز العساكر, Chief Commercial Officer, Riyadh Airport. Ms. Jane, working on the Sport Boulevard is similar to working at the airport. I know the magnitude and the giga project you are handling. Speaking of which, I know through the project you went through issues, and how did you overcome that? What's the biggest issue you went through, and how did you come over that using your leadership skills? Thank you.
I'll be honest, the biggest issue that we had is that when I arrived, the project had started, physically started at one part of the site. And really the project wasn't ready to start. When you have a very complex real estate project, especially one that involves a lot of underground utilities and systems, and you're creating new utilities and systems, smart city, for example, and TSE trails for irrigation. If you don't start right, it's like a big ocean liner. Once the thing's left the port, it takes a long time to turn it round, and that causes a lot of delays. And we kind of started very, very quickly, and I genuinely think because we didn't have a huge amount of experience in the team, in order to finish on time. But in actual fact, don't be pressured into something that doesn't feel right just because you've got a deadline or a budget control. Take a breath, set it up properly, because that way you'll have fewer delays on the way through. And so we actually took a year back to actually put the proper construction drawings in place, do the proper surveys to find out where everything was, so that we could restart. And now we find we're still finishing on time by doing that. So I think, I hope that's a good example in answering your question. I think overcoming an earlier mistake is always much harder than setting it up right in the first place. So take the time you need, and don't be afraid of saying stop. Right? This isn't right. Stop. We need to think this through, reset, change the strategy. Don't be afraid to change strategy, by the way. No strategy is forever. I think there's a very famous British Prime Minister, Macmillan, who somebody said to him, "What's the most difficult thing about being Prime Minister of Britain?" He said, "Events, dear boy, events." And what he was saying is stuff that happens. Nobody can see into the future. You can predict, but you're probably going to be wrong. And you have to react. So I think really get it right in the first place, but don't be afraid to change.
Right. The question, the gentleman in the center, please, could we pass the microphone on? And then probably if we can take some more questions from the lady side. Yes,
Yes. I would like to ask a very simple question. Being a leader, having an external and internal stakeholders, how can you make sure that every single one of them will pull his weight in the project?
well, I can't make sure that nobody could make sure that every single one of them can pull their weight, but it becomes very apparent when something's failing. So it's why I sort of keep my eye on, try and keep my fingers on everything if possible. So when something's failing, the thing comes out of sequence. Actually, you can do it from your desk with a great piece, with a reporting system on your desk. I've got everything that comes through a desktop dashboard, so I can see every day how much money we've spent. Follow the money is always a good way of seeing where something's going wrong. And so you very quickly can see where something is out of sync with the rest of it. And then you can go and have a look, find out what's going on, put it right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there was a lady on that side, please. Yes. Could you pass on the microphone?
Hello, this is Hana Al-Fawzan speaking. I have a very small question, and I would like to ask you about how does Saudi Sport Boulevard collaborate with other government entities, private sector, and the international stakeholders to drive growth and development of the sport industry in Saudi?
Well, we engage with all of those things, really. First and foremost, government. We're owned by government. We are a government company. We're not a PIF company. We're not an RCRC company. We're a foundation. We're a not-for-profit foundation. All of the money we make, we churn back into the foundation to operate the park. So our main stakeholders in government are RCRC, Amana, Ministry of Sport, and Ministry of Health, because what we're providing is an initiative for people to exercise. So that's first and foremost very important. But in order to deliver that, we need to engage very heavily with the private sector, with the creation of funds, with the providing buildings that people want to live in and work in, with providing the facilities that allow people to live and work in there. And we're doing that. We're not a development company per se. We're not looking to be a big real estate company. A lot of the other mega projects are real estate companies. So we engage with the private sector to do that. And then I've seen a big change in the last 2 years from international engagement. When I first came here, it was me approaching them, saying, hey, look at what we're doing. This is really interesting. Do you want to be part of this? And sort of, they were going, well, yeah, might be. And now they are pursuing us to be part of Sports Boulevard. So there's a huge shift in international engagement. Sorry, this keeps switching on and off. Yeah,
probably the battery thing.
There's a huge shift. I see that in 2 years, and it's getting more and more as time goes on. So, international sporting clubs, international cultural things, international investment coming into the country as opposed to leaving the country to go internationally. In a nutshell, I would say 10 years ago, if you wanted an international brand here, Saudi was encouraging them in with financial incentives. And now it's more about, we've got our own brands, thanks very much, we don't really need you. And now that we're saying that to them, they're saying, we want to be in. Why can't, So there has been a massive shift. I'm quite encouraged by that. I think it's really good for the country. And I think in the next 5 years, you'll see a lot of inward investment, not only from the GCC area, but from the States, from Europe, and the Far East, of course, in a big way.
Yes, I think we have a question right there, and then, yes, please. There's a gentleman behind you, and then we'll take Dr.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
First of all, I would like to welcome you in Saudi, and special thank you for you to feel us about the closing route and the street on traffic jam regarding the project.
Sorry.
No worries. You are feeling us because they stay nearby. So my question is a technical question. I would like to inquiry about what's the first date or the baseline to closing the project to see it on the street?
Well, the date of opening will be up to the board of directors, but we finish building our first district at the end of this year, if that helps. Then our program, inshallah, everything going well, will be that we complete our section along Prince Mohammed bin Salman Road, which is about 35 kilometers, by 2030.
Yes, I think we can take one last question from Dr. George, as I think we are coming towards the end of our talk.
You spoke about the use of artificial intelligence and that you expedited a search from 5 months or 3 months to a click of a button.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, and there are examples nowadays that artificial intelligence assistants help in leadership decisions. So what do you think is the role of artificial intelligence in leadership in the future?
You asked if it was a good thing or a bad thing.
Exactly.
Okay. So for me, artificial intelligence is a tool that gives me information. It doesn't make the decision for me. Now, how far that goes, who knows? But at the moment, I'm finding it incredibly useful to collect data, to use it as a professional tool, creating a drawing at this stage. In my line of work, that's what I'm using it for. But I can see that in defense or some other industry, it could become, I hope it's going to become heavily regulated. But I can't, for me, I think it would be a disaster if it takes away the human element of decision making, however flawed that human element is. Humans are flawed animals, really. We're not perfect, we'll never be perfect. But, we feed the information into the AI, so really it's just a faster computer, is my analysis, but I'm no expert, I'm just using it and finding it useful.
Right. As professionals, we have to respect the time that we are allotted to use, and I'm so much willing and loving to have, or to be able to take more of your questions and actually to proceed with this very interesting talk. But I would like to, on behalf of and the leadership, thank you, Ms. McGivern, for giving us this beautiful insight about leadership and the and all the knowledge that you have shared with us. Thank you so much, Ms. McGivern. And may I here request His Excellency Khalid Al-Khudair, Sheikh Khalid Al-Khudair, the head of the Board of Trustees of Al-Yamamah University, to present a token to Ms. McGivern.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
So maybe here on this occasion, I would like to request His Excellency Dr. Hussam Ramadan and the Vice President, Dr. Walid, and the Deans and our dear guest to take the family photo of the CEO dinner. Please. نجي بس الأمام، نجي الأمام بس شوي لو سمحتوا. أيوه لو سمحتوا هنا. لو. دكتور حسام تفضل. الجهة الثانية لو سمحت دكتور حسام.
Thank you, sir.
أشكرك جدا. الله يعافيك. أشكرك جدا. Please, dear students, guests, you can please join us in the family photo. You're welcome, please.